I received a message notification saying my wife had reserved a table at a restaurant for Valentine's Day. I thought it was the most unexpected thing, considering I usually take care of these things every year. However, by the evening, all I received was a message saying she had to work overtime. Not long after, I stumbled upon a post from her junior on WeChat. Only a caring sister knows how to spoil someone. A fancy restaurant. A sweet person. Tonight's cake was sweet, but not as sweet as your lips. The picture showed him and Evelyn in an intimate pose. And around her neck was the necklace I gave her this morning. On the table was the wine I gifted her. In the past, I might have furiously confronted Evelyn, but this time, I was just exhausted. Chapter 1. When Evelyn came home, I was eating a mango. She's allergic to mangoes, just a touch would cause her skin to break out in hives. So, for many years, we haven't even had mango-flavored ice cream in our house. Evelyn looked surprised to see me still awake. Casually, she handed me the gift she had prepared. In a flat tone, she said, "Happy Valentine's Day, honey." To be fair, she's a good wife. She doesn't just take, but also puts effort into preparing gifts for me in advance. For example, this expensive Patek Philippe watch I just received. This year, I got a message from the restaurant owner on Valentine's Day, saying Evelyn had reserved a table. The owner has known us since college and witnessed our love story, so he's kind of a friend. I confessed and proposed to Evelyn at his restaurant. He joked over the phone, calling himself a single guy while congratulating us. Then asked if I wanted to try their new cake tonight. I asked, "Does the cake have mango in it? If so, let's stick to the usual." "Thanks, but my wife's allergic to mango." Just after I hung up with him, Evelyn called. "I have to work overtime tonight. I won't be able to spend the evening with you." That night, I couldn't sleep. So I scrolled through my phone. I saw a post from her junior, Peter. Only a caring sister knows how to spoil someone. A fancy restaurant. A sweet person. Tonight's cake was sweet, but not as sweet as your lips. The picture showed him and Evelyn in an intimate pose. His hand loosely wrapped around her waist. His smile gentle and suggestive. On the table was the wine I had given Evelyn, and around her neck was the necklace I'd given her that morning. I instantly recognized the restaurant, the one that holds so much meaning for Evelyn and me. Peter was holding the dessert the owner had recommended. The cake had layers filled with mango puree. Chapter 2. When Evelyn sat down to eat with me, she frowned and said, "Why is there mango?" I had seen Peter's post. I knew he was provoking me on purpose, but I was too tired. I didn't want to question Evelyn or argue with her anymore. I stared at my phone screen and suddenly had a strong craving for mango. I ordered a delivery, and soon fresh-cut mango was in my hands. It tasted sweet with a hint of tartness, a perfect balance. I've always loved eating it, but since being with Evelyn, I hadn't had any. After I finished, I wiped my hands and said, "I'm going to bed now if there's nothing else." Evelyn grabbed my arm and said, "Oliver, it's Valentine's Day." I looked at her in confusion and asked, "So what?" Her frown deepened as she stood up, moving closer to me. In a teasing voice, she whispered in my ear, "On a night like this, are you really going to bed so early?" Evelyn has always had a cold, distant allure. After graduation, once she put on glasses, her intellectual charm only heightened that sense of distance. But tonight, I could smell a faint scent of smoke on her. I took a step back, avoiding her kiss. I said, "I just ate mango. You'll have an allergic reaction." Chapter 3. I ignored Evelyn's astonished expression and walked into the bedroom, locking the door behind me with a click. Lying in bed, my phone rang. It was my supervisor. She asked, "Have you really decided to take the position? If you flake on me again because of Evelyn, I swear I'll kill you." "I'm not joking." I chuckled and replied, "I won't back out again. If I do, I'll personally come to you, head in hand." The position in the company's advertising department offers a higher salary, but it requires constant travel for business. 3 years ago, my supervisor had wanted me to take the role, but I refused because of Evelyn. Evelyn and I have known each other for more than 10 years, we grew up together. I've always known she's a traditional woman who cares about details and boundaries. Being away all the time, maybe only seeing her for 30 days a year, and not even knowing when we'd see each other, that kind of instability, she couldn't handle it. I once had her take the MBTI test. She didn't really get why, but she did it and showed me the result. ISTJ. Keywords: reserved, traditional, serious, self-disciplined, orderly. That's exactly who Evelyn is. Just holding her hand took me over half a year. In middle and high school, my close friends thought someone like her was incredibly boring. They didn't understand why I liked her. I smiled and told them, "Because she saved my life, literally." Back in middle school, an earthquake affected our school. We were in class, and everyone rushed outside in a panic. I charged ahead, but hit a desk leg hard and fell. She pushed through the crowd, fighting against the current to find me. She made sure I walked in front of her, and followed closely behind as we ran out together. Later, I asked her, "What were you thinking? If you died, wouldn't all your dreams and hard work be for nothing?" Evelyn was a bit stunned by my question. She said, "I wasn't thinking that much. At that moment, I just thought that if I couldn't make it, I'd rather die with you." That Evelyn, she probably never imagined that one day, she'd leave me behind for someone else. I've never doubted her sincerity. But sincerity is fleeting. My supervisor must have picked up on something between Evelyn and me from my tone. She said, "Who hasn't made mistakes in this world? It's easier to blame past mistakes than to fix them, Oliver. I hope you always have the courage to turn the tables when necessary." She added one last thing. "Of course, someone as perfect as me never makes mistakes. You, on the other hand, aren't as perfect as I am, so it's understandable. But no matter what, even if you lose the woman, you can't lose the job. You start in 3 days, and you've got a business trip to Argentina right away. You can't be half-hearted about this." Chapter 4. The next day, I woke up early to go to the office and hand over my current work. Evelyn was sitting in the living room, her lips slightly swollen, a sign of her mango allergy. It was probably from Peter kissing her after eating the mango cake last night. I walked past her, heading for the door. But she grabbed my wrist. She frowned, looking a little defiant, and asked, "Why are you mad? Is it because I didn't spend time with you yesterday? I already told you I was busy and had to work overtime. I even let you know I'd be home late. The company is going public." As a woman, do you have any idea how hard it's been for me to climb my way to management? So many eyes are on me. How could I not set an example? You've always said you'd support me in having my own career. Why are you acting like this now? Yeah, this is how it's always been. I love her, so I tolerate her, even when she was so busy that she didn't know I was in the hospital, and I couldn't reach her by phone. I never said a word, until one day, I picked her up from work, and her phone rang. While she was doing her eyebrows, she immediately put down her half-finished makeup and sweetly answered someone else's call. That was the first time I heard her mention Peter's name. It was also the first time I realized that she wasn't too busy to take a phone call. And she wasn't the reserved, distant woman who kept boundaries with men. It was just that I wasn't the person she thought was worth her showing those feelings. I pulled my hand away from Evelyn and calmly said, "That's enough, Evelyn. We're done." Before I could finish, her phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the screen and gave me an apologetic look. Peter's boyish voice came through the phone. "Sis, come pick me up. It's so cold today. I don't want to get out of bed. If you don't come get me, you can't dock my pay if I'm late." Evelyn's expression softened almost unconsciously. She said, "You, afraid of the cold, the same guy who climbs snowy mountains at night. All right, Peter, get up. You're bringing me breakfast today, remember?" I let out a sarcastic laugh. On the other end, Peter seemed to sense something. "Oh right, tell Ning thanks from me. Yesterday, I not only ate at his restaurant, but borrowed one of his people too. I'll definitely work hard and send him a great gift in the future." Chapter 5. Evelyn gave me a guilty glance when she heard Peter's words, then quickly looked away. Her fingers instinctively pressed the volume down button on her phone. You really can't help but laugh when things get to this point. I shook my head and turned to leave, but I heard Evelyn quickly reject Peter and catch up to me. "Yesterday, Peter had a client dinner, but he forgot to book a restaurant. So I gave him our reservation. It was all for business. You understand, right?" I stared at her in silence. Spending Valentine's Day with a client, did she not find that absurd? Evelyn probably didn't realize it. Whenever she lies or gets nervous, she unconsciously grips her wedding ring, but it didn't take long before Peter called her again. And she left, citing food poisoning or some other excuse. It didn't matter. It wasn't the first time. This winter was unusually cold. Snow blocked the roads, and there was no delivery available. I wanted Evelyn to make me some porridge, but I saw her put on her coat and get up, saying, "Peter has no food at home. I'm going to his place to cook something for him." I froze in place. I wasn't sure whether to ask what her relationship with Peter was, or why she needed to cook for another man, but Evelyn didn't give me the chance to ask. She hurried out the door, without even noticing that I was curled up on the couch, feeling unwell. It was so different from when we were in high school. Back then, if I even showed the slightest sign of stress, skipping meals, she would scold me coldly, but during an emergency break, she'd somehow pull out a steaming hot bowl of rice cakes like magic. "Eat up. You'll only get worse if I don't take care of you. You're always causing me trouble." When I got to the office, my supervisor dumped a mountain of paperwork on my desk. "Handle all of this within 3 days, or come to me with your head." I worked late into the night, and when I checked my phone, I saw a draft of the divorce papers sent by the lawyer. So, in the middle of the snowstorm, I took a cab straight to Evelyn's office building, but when I reached her floor, the power went out. I frowned and turned on my phone's flashlight. At that moment, I got a message from a colleague with a link. His tone was hesitant. "Isn't this the heavy metal band concert you've always wanted to go to?" Confused, I clicked the link. It took me to the poster's homepage. It was Peter's account. It chronicled all his moments with Evelyn. Turns out he had known Evelyn since high school, followed her to college, and now worked at her company. His bio read, "Being head over heels for her isn't just your privilege." I clicked on the video, and suddenly understood why my colleague had been so hesitant. In the video, concert lights flashed over Peter and Evelyn's faces. They were holding hands and kissing passionately in the crowd. My phone slipped from my hand and crashed to the ground. Rage filled my chest. Evelyn and I had been together for most of our lives. We'd practically spent our entire existence together. But despite all that, I still found Evelyn so unfamiliar. It felt like I'd never really known her at all. From her office came the sound of soft sobs. Evelyn choked out, "I'm sorry, but we really can't." A male voice responded, I just like you. What did I do wrong?" The boy wrapped his arms around her waist, gently stroking her tear-streaked face. Peter kissed Evelyn's tear-stained cheek, sadness filling his eyes. I watched as his hand slid up from her waist, until it rested on the back of her head. And then, in the darkness, they shared a long, lingering kiss. Bang. The power came back on, and the lights flooded the room. "Ah." They finally noticed me standing at the door. Peter said, "Ning, it's not what it looks like. I'm just too in love with her. It's not Evelyn's fault." Evelyn looked like she was in a daze when she saw me. Her lips were slightly parted, still glistening with moisture. "Oliver, why are you here?" I looked at her calmly, then walked over to Peter with a smile. But in the next second, I slammed my fist into his face. Before he could even fall, I grabbed him by the collar, pulling him closer, and glared at him viciously. "This punch is for your pathetic face. I've met a lot of female, pretentious coquettes, but I've never met a male one until now. Makes me sick." He opened his mouth to argue, but in an instant, I threw a right hook into his stomach, the force driving through him, making him double over in pain and collapse. Evelyn snapped out of it, just about to speak. Smack! I backhanded her across the face. She clutched her cheek, her eyes filling with tears. Looking hurt, I coldly removed my wedding ring, tossing it at her like trash. When it hit her, she finally began to sob, worthless tears streaming down her swollen cheeks. Her voice rose. "Oliver, don't do this, please. Just listen to me." But I cut her off, handing her the printed divorce papers. I said, "Evelyn, we're getting a divorce." Chapter 6. Evelyn, disregarding all dignity, chased me all the way downstairs from the office. "Oliver, please listen to me. It's not what you think." Half the building was watching. Embarrassed, I flagged down a cab, ready to leave. Amid the falling snow, Evelyn pressed against the car door, not letting me close it. Her expression was almost pleading as she said, "There's really nothing between us. He's just a kid. He doesn't know any better." I sneered. "He's not grown up yet, so you're just teaching him how to kiss in advance." "Huh?" My tone was flat. She looked at me, her eyes red, as if staring at a ship that was never coming back. She choked out, "Don't look at me like that, Oliver, please, don't look at me like that. We've been together for over 10 years. I can't live without you, Peter." Peter was just an accident. Her voice grew quieter and quieter, but then someone called out from behind her, "Evelyn, Peter's gone up to the rooftop. Come quick." She instinctively let go and turned around. I let out a derisive laugh and slammed the car door shut without hesitation. In the rearview mirror, I saw Evelyn take a few steps after me, but she stopped, turning back to run into the building. I closed my eyes. Once the anger subsided, the stabbing pain in my chest finally hit me. The driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror, his voice full of concern. "Hey, kid, you all right?" I wiped my face, turning my head away. I remained silent. Back home, I started packing up my belongings. Not long after, both Evelyn's parents and my parents called me. I thought bitterly, Evelyn sure is busy. She has to calm Peter down from jumping off a building, but she still has time to inform both sets of parents to play peacemakers. Evelyn and I have been together for over 10 years. Our entanglement is deeper and harder to break than most couples. In the end, all my parents said to me was, "Son, we just hope that every decision you make is for your own happiness." I finally finished packing all my things. I opened the door, only to be met with Evelyn's devastated face. Chapter 7. Evelyn looked dejected, like a child caught doing something wrong. She trembled as she reached out to hold my hand. "Oliver, don't go. Please don't leave. I can explain everything." I stared at her calmly. Suddenly, she broke down. "I'm begging you. Hit me, scold me, do whatever you want. Just don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that." She pressed down on my suitcase, trying to keep me from leaving. "Oliver, We promised to grow old together. Our parents are expecting us to go back to Beijing for the new year this year. You can't leave me now. Mom and Dad miss you so much. I sighed and asked. What do you want, Evelyn? She nearly collapsed to her knees, hugging my leg, her tears soaking through my clothes. Sobbing uncontrollably, she pleaded, please, give me another chance. I promise, I'll do better. I didn't respond. My eyes, however, fell on the old college graduation photo that had accidentally fallen out while I was packing. That's when I noticed, in that picture, it wasn't just Evelyn and me. Peter was there too, standing in the distance under the shade of a tree, staring at Evelyn. And Evelyn's gaze wasn't on me, it had passed over me, meeting his. So it had started that early, hadn't it? I had thought those moments belonged only to Evelyn and me, but there had always been a third person in the background. Evelyn trembled slightly, unable to lift her head to meet my gaze, like a criminal awaiting a death sentence. To her surprise, I softly said, all right. She looked up at me in disbelief, her eyes lighting up with hope. Really, Oliver, are you really willing to start over with me? After thinking for a moment, I nodded and unexpectedly said, sure, on one condition. Remember how we planned to take a trip to the islands back in high school? All these years, we never made it. I want us to take a 5-day vacation to the islands. How about that? Evelyn immediately agreed. She threw herself into my arms, murmuring, it's that simple. Yeah, it's that simple, but I knew she wouldn't be able to do it. Chapter 8. When I thought about it carefully, Evelyn being attracted to Peter wasn't all that surprising. Evelyn had spent her entire life following her family's rules, living cautiously, from Beijing to the capital, from her education to marriage, and even having a childhood sweetheart as her husband. Her future was like a peaceful, well-paved road laid out in advance. But when life is too calm for too long, it's inevitable to crave excitement. Peter was like a cold soda on a scorching summer day. He was rebellious, adventurous. He'd take her on night hikes up snow-covered mountains, stay up all night at concerts, kiss her at sunrise by the sea. No matter how reserved someone is, it's hard not to be swept up in such an intense, passionate pursuit. Evelyn said that after our vacation, she would stick by my side every day and wouldn't let me get tired of her. It was as if she was afraid I might change my mind, so she watched me closely at all times. Usually, I'd be the one planning our vacations, but this time was different. Evelyn took charge, eagerly organizing every detail of our trip to the islands. It seemed like she was genuinely excited about finally taking the trip we'd never had. Meanwhile, I scrolled through social media, bored. Peter would post something every day, practically torturing himself as he dissected his feelings for Evelyn. I lowered my eyes and watched coldly. Today, he couldn't hold back any longer and posted something completely unfiltered. The person she loves is me. I couldn't help but laugh. I posted something in response. From now on, I'll be living on the islands with my wife. The past is like yesterday, dead and gone. Today is a new beginning. The past is smoke. I just want to hold your hand from now on. Peter finally couldn't contain himself and asked to meet with me. In the cafe, he gritted his teeth and asked, after everything, you're still going to forgive her? You're really going to stay with her? I smiled but said nothing. He angrily spat out, you're really leaving? Really moving to the islands? Why hasn't she said anything to me? I threw the visa my supervisor had expedited for me onto the table in front of him. Half joking, I said, Evelyn and I have been together for over 10 years. She begged me to give her another chance. I told her if she could drop everything and leave with me, I'd forgive her. Of course, she gratefully agreed. I smiled, but there was no warmth in my eyes. Peter, furious, said, that's impossible. I've done so much for her. She told me she loves me. He was seething with anger, but beneath it, I could still hear the pain in his voice. I stared at him coldly. Peter really knew how to hit where it hurt. He stole Evelyn away on Valentine's Day, messaged me to reveal their relationship, and even let me catch them kissing, all to make me give up on Evelyn and leave her. But he didn't realize that my place in Evelyn's heart was far deeper than he thought. His schemes had all backfired on him. Peter, enraged, lunged at me, but what threat could a little guy like him pose? I easily blocked him, poured my coffee over his head. Then, without giving him time to react, slapped him hard enough to knock him to the ground. I crouched down, grabbed his hair, and forced him to look up. Smiling, I said, pathetic. You're really serious about loving Evelyn, huh? Too bad for you. You didn't really think she loves you, did you? Looking at his face, full of frustration and resentment, I had to fight the urge to vomit. I emphasized once more that if Evelyn really left with me, I'd forgive her, and we'd live happily together. But if she didn't go, I'd never forgive her. Peter's expression kept changing. I smiled, knowing he understood. Chapter 9. At the airport. Evelyn anxiously checked her phone, her lips tightly pursed. Oliver, this time is different. Peter was in a car accident. And it's really serious. Can we postpone the trip to the islands? Peter was certainly willing to go all out. I silently stared at her, my eyes tracing every contour of her face. Suddenly, I said, I know why you didn't come to that concert with me that night. Evelyn froze, her lips twitching slightly as if trying to force a smile, but failing. She said, that night, it was Peter's birthday. He invited me. I couldn't turn him down. I laughed. That was my favorite band since I was a teenager. On my birthday that year, you kept pestering me, asking what my wish was. I told you I hoped to make enough money to see them live. You got mad and asked why my wish didn't involve taking you with me. So I paused and continued. My birthday wish at 18 was to see their concert with you, don't you remember? I was at that concert that night. I just didn't know that my wife was in the crowd, kissing someone else. I even sent her a message during the concert, reminding her to eat something. It disappeared into the void. Without a single response, Evelyn began to panic. Her voice rose, as if trying to make up for something. There will be other chances. I cut her off. There won't be. That was their farewell concert. There won't be another one. I looked her in the eyes and repeated, there won't be another one. We stood there in silence for a moment. Then I suddenly relaxed, waving her off. Go ahead. He's been in an accident, and you're his supervisor. It'd look bad if you didn't go. As for the islands, I smiled, meeting her gaze. It was like I could see the girl who, at 18, pouted and insisted I take her to the islands one day. I continued, we'll just go next time. Evelyn looked like she had been granted a reprieve. She rushed out of the airport, braving the snow and rain to catch a cab to Peter's side. I tore up the plane ticket in my hand and threw the pieces in the trash. Then I printed a new ticket. Destination, Argentina. Chapter 10. When Evelyn woke up, she found herself lying in a man's arms. The man was gently kissing her face. Something didn't feel right. She widened her eyes. This wasn't Oliver. Yesterday, she had rushed to the hospital, only to find that Peter's car accident was just a lie. She had been angry at first, but then he tearfully said, Evelyn, I've loved you for so many years. One last time. Can't you just stay with me one last time? A voice inside her head kept pulling her to leave. Oliver. Oliver must be furious by now. They'd known each other since childhood, growing up together. They had been married for 7 years. Everything had been so perfect. She couldn't leave Oliver. But Peter, his eyes red-rimmed, gently stroked her cheek. How could she turn him away? When he looked at her with such devotion, Evelyn suddenly felt a sinking feeling in her heart. It was like a premonition. When you're about to lose something important, there's always an almost instinctive sense of dread. Like the feeling of falling in a dream from a tall building in the middle of the night. Without reason, she suddenly thought of Oliver's expression when he waved to her at the airport yesterday. Nostalgic, yet resolute. It was as if he was saying goodbye. She nearly jumped out of bed to grab her phone. Peter asked in confusion, Evelyn, what's wrong? But her phone was dead. Her heart pounded as she anxiously watched the black screen, waiting for it to charge, as if she could burn a hole into it with her stare. Her panic-stricken expression startled Peter. Finally, the phone powered back on. As soon as it did, a call came in, and the voice on the other end was shouting. Evelyn was stunned. It was her mother yelling at her. It took Evelyn a while to understand what was happening. Apparently, Oliver had compiled evidence of her affair with Peter into a PowerPoint presentation, complete with a 320 megabytes attachment, and sent it to all of their family, friends, and colleagues. The final slide had Oliver's typical touch, a photoshopped picture of her and Peter's wedding, with a handwritten note that read, "Let's wish this pair of cheaters a lifetime of childless, everlasting happiness." After hanging up, she opened her messages. She saw that Oliver had only left her a picture of the divorce papers. With a single note, on the desk in the study, "Sign it and send it to my office." Chapter 11. She drove like a madwoman, running red lights all the way home. This winter was exceptionally cold, and rain and snow had turned the roads slick. She skidded several times, nearly crashing. The driver of a car she almost hit rolled down their window to yell at her, despite the weather. But it was as if she was in a daze, unable to hear anything. All she could think about was getting home, finding Oliver. He was so soft-hearted. He loved her so much. There had to be a chance to fix this. There wasn't time to wait. Oliver had to be furious by now. But when she finally got home, she found the house empty. Oliver had packed up almost everything he owned and taken it with him. She remembered how, when they were preparing for the island trip, she had teased him about packing so much. She had joked, "It's not like we're never coming back." Oliver had only smiled and said nothing in return. Her heart filled with a dull, suffocating pain. So that was it. He had been planning to leave her all along. No, that couldn't be. They had been together for most of their lives, practically their entire existence. She couldn't live without Oliver. Oliver couldn't live without her either. If she apologized sincerely, made things right, he would forgive her, just like he always did. After all, He'd once said they were meant to be together since childhood, but when she reached Oliver's office, his cold-faced supervisor ordered security to throw her out. When she finally managed to contact one of Oliver's colleagues, even they treated her with disdain. She spent days trying to track him down, only to learn that Oliver had taken the new position. He was now traveling for work, flying from one place to another, with no known return date. How ridiculous. His wife had to go to such lengths just to learn a little about his whereabouts. Evelyn slowly realized. It seemed like Oliver had been leaving her little by little for some time now. Her message thread with him no longer had those playful emoji-filled chats. Now, every message she sent him returned with a red exclamation mark. She looked at his social media, and all traces of their relationship had been erased. The only thing left was a reposted quote. When did you decide to break up? When you realized that your future would be as long and suffocating as every day is now. I just want to live happily. Chapter 12. After finishing business, I set aside some time to explore Argentina. This country, 22,000 kilometers from home, was in the middle of summer. The sun bathed the land, casting a golden veil over everything. In the streets of Buenos Aires, tango dancers twirled in the sunset, and the air was filled with a mix of European elegance and Latin American passion. At the invitation of a business partner, I traveled to Mendoza. The vineyards thrived under the summer sun, stretching out like a vast green sea of vines. Basking in this sunlight, it felt like the cold winter had been completely driven away. As I sipped a glass of Malbec wine, Evelyn's call came through. Her voice was hoarse as she asked, "Oliver, where are you?" I took a sip of the wine and thought about where Argentina was on the map. I replied, "On the other side of the world. What do you want? If you've signed the divorce papers, send them to my office. If not, don't bother calling." Evelyn was silent. As I was about to hang up, she suddenly said, "I'm sorry." It was as if a floodgate had opened, and her sobs crossed oceans to reach me. Her voice was filled with helplessness and pain, like a child abandoned in a crowded store. "Oliver, I'm sorry. Please, forgive me. Tell me what to do, and I'll do anything you say. 20 years. We've been together for over 20 years. Can you really just let it go? How can you be so heartless?" I smiled to myself. She must have heard my laugh, because she suddenly froze. Her sobbing stopped. In a panic, she asked, "Oliver, why are you laughing?" I exhaled, looking down, and said, "You're always like this, Evelyn. You're always like this. You're so sure that I love you. So sure that if you just show me your pain, act pathetic, I'll feel sorry for you. But, Evelyn, have you ever thought, I don't love you anymore?" Chapter 13. The next time I returned to my home in Beijing, it was New Year's Eve. The problem with childhood sweethearts is that they know each other too well. As the family gathered for the festive reunion dinner, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a haggard-looking Evelyn standing there. She looked even thinner than before, her hair unkempt, hanging loosely over a pilled beige sweater. She looked desolate and helpless. The PowerPoint I made had completely destroyed her and Peter's reputation within their social circles. Maybe there was some justice in that. Ever since, Evelyn had been on a downward spiral. People who once supported her, seeing her true character, shook their heads and withdrew their help. That was just part of the gossip I had overheard at dinner. As for me, I hadn't spoken to her since that last phone call. The streets were filled with the warm glow of homes, and fireworks lit up the sky in the distance. Evelyn looked at me, her face filled with despair, but there was still a glimmer of hope in her eyes. She spoke with difficulty. "Every year, we've always spent New Year's Eve together. Oliver, I love you. I really can't live without you." I looked at her, and suddenly, I remembered the younger version of her sneaking out on New Year's Eve, cheeks flushed, just to give me a red string bracelet she had woven herself. I had thought that seeing her again would hurt, but to my surprise, I felt nothing at all. These past months, flying all over the world, the different landscapes I'd seen had slowly but surely filled my heart. The sound of fireworks marked the end of the year. The long, cold winter was finally over. A new year was about to begin. I said, "Evelyn, don't do this. It's New Year's. Seeing you like this makes me feel sick." Evelyn's face turned deathly pale. I closed the door. When my parents asked who it was, I just shook my head and said, "No one." Then I dove back into the warmth of the family dinner, fighting for the last piece of beef in the hot pot. Laughter filled the room, and everyone was in high spirits. It was wonderful. I still had my family. Chapter 14. Under the so-called brilliant leadership of my supervisor, my career was thriving. I quickly adapted to the life of constant travel. Whenever I arrived in a new place, I'd send a postcard back home. My mom, having picked up some internet slang, now called me her travel frog. This time, I was in Japan. My mom worried over the phone, "Son, be careful. I've heard Japan has a lot of earthquakes." I took a big bite of the mango bread I had just bought. Walking toward the fireworks festival, Japan truly was a fascinating country, having once modeled itself after much of our culture. Yet now it had developed its own distinct, melancholic, and quietly romantic essence. Under the canopy of a summer night, the Japanese fireworks festival was like a dazzling dream. The fireworks exploded in the night sky, like countless shining stars burning brightly for a moment, turning the darkness into day. I looked up, momentarily forgetting to breathe, snapping out of it. I smiled and said to my mom over the phone, "Earthquakes aren't that common, but, as luck would have it, Japan's meteorological agency issued an unprecedented warning. Nankai Trough earthquake, temporary information, attention to large earthquake." All flights back were fully booked. By the time the news reached home, I had gone off the grid. My mom was so frantic she started praying to gods, even lighting incense at midnight to ask for my safety. Evelyn heard the news and silently booked a flight to Japan. Peter was still by her side at the time. He had lost his job and been blacklisted in the industry. He and Evelyn were locked in a toxic relationship, torturing each other. He said, "Don't be stupid. Even if you go, Oliver won't forgive you. Don't you understand?" But Evelyn refused to listen to him. In their struggle, unable to break free, Evelyn grabbed a kettle from the table and smashed it over Peter's head. Blood poured from Peter's forehead. He screamed like a madman. "He doesn't love you, don't you get it? He never loved you. I'm the only one who loves you, Evelyn. I'm the only one who loves you." But all Evelyn left him with was her back. Chapter 15. Thankfully, I made it back to the country without any major incidents. Though my return flight had been delayed, before the plane took off, my broken phone strangely received a call from an unknown number, but with the flight attendants urging me to switch it off. I hung up and shut it down. Once I got home, I reassured my family that I was safe and went straight to work. That strange call slipped my mind, until Peter showed up outside my office building. He was no longer the proud, confident man he once was. He stood there, red-eyed and disheveled, demanding, "Where's Evelyn? Give me back my Evelyn." Through the glass door, I frowned and looked at him like he was a madman. It turned out Evelyn had gone to Japan. Just before the earthquake, suddenly, it clicked, and I remembered that strange call, but I kept my expression calm and had security remove Peter. I told him, "I don't care. She's your girlfriend now, not mine." The bad news came from Evelyn's parents, who told my parents, and eventually reached me. Evelyn had followed the address from my last social media post, where I'd mentioned watching the fireworks festival, like carving a mark into a boat to find a lost sword. She was searching for me, calling, Oliver, using a new SIM card to try and reach me, but all she got was a busy signal. She thought I was still angry and ignoring her calls, so she chased me down to the inn where I had stayed. That's when the building collapsed. My mother sighed heavily as she told me the story. Sigh. I couldn't help but remember the girl who had shielded me during the earthquake in middle school, helping me escape the collapsing classroom. A mix of emotions stirred within me. This time, Evelyn hadn't made it out. She had been crushed, her leg shattered. Whether she'd ever walk again was uncertain. Over the phone, my mom cautiously asked, "Son, are you going to visit her?" I shook my head. When there was no response, I realized she couldn't see me. So I said, "No, Evelyn and we have nothing to do with each other anymore." Chapter 16. After hanging up the phone, I looked out the window. This was another new and unfamiliar country. What beautiful sights would I find here? I was looking forward to it. As for the past, the events of yesterday die with yesterday. The events of today are born anew. I hope everyone finds the courage to flip the table and start over. I traveled back to the day when the rich girl confessed her feelings to me. The young girl was wearing a white dress, her brows soft and gentle. "I like you." In the next second, I heard her inner voice, "He really believes it." Disgusting. Chapter 1. The cicadas were chirping in the camphor tree, and the people around were jeering, though it was the kind of jeering meant to mock. Someone next to us whistled and laughed. "Evelyn's taste is getting a bit heavy lately, huh?" The girl in the white dress ignored them and just stood in front of me. Her expression gentle, the sunlight filtered through her shoulders, and she looked like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. Evelyn, stubborn as always, pressed against the handlebars of my bike, standing on tiptoes, staring straight at me. She said, "Lucas, I like you." In her eyes, I saw my reflection, an awkward, stiff 17-year-old boy, thin and frail in an oversized school uniform. I was frozen in place, my face burning red without needing to check, my hands trembling helplessly. After all, this was Evelyn, the girl I had secretly been in love with for a long time. I was about to blurt out, "I like you too," when I heard the heart of the pure-looking girl in front of me. "He really believes it." Disgusting. I was stunned for a moment and looked at Evelyn again. She was smiling gently, with no sign of the disgust she was feeling inside. She was waiting confidently for my reply. After all, everyone at South City High knew I was Evelyn's simp. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I suddenly took a step back. Sorry, I don't like you. Evelyn's expression turned ugly for a moment. No one had ever rejected her before. Just then, a silver-haired girl walked by arrogantly, as if she hadn't noticed the drama unfolding here. I recognized her. She was the notorious school bully, the queen of our school, and Evelyn's arch-nemesis. I pointed at the school bully and said to Evelyn, I like her type. You're too childish. You understand. I wobbled my bike's handlebars. So, Evelyn, move aside. Evelyn must have been bewildered, not understanding how the boy who had adored her a second ago could now tell her to get lost. She stiffened, placing her hand on my handlebars, an intense unease showing between her delicate brows. She bit her lip and asked, What's wrong with you? She held onto my bike. I was afraid to pull too hard and accidentally hurt her, leaving me stuck in a dilemma. In the next second, however, the silver-haired girl reached over and grabbed my handlebars, yanking them free from Evelyn's grip with a twist of her wrist. Didn't you hear him? He told you to move. Her voice was crisp, with a hint of coldness. I turned my head slightly. The silver-haired girl had waist-length hair, her side profile delicate yet exuding an aura that warned people to stay away. Her long silver hair shimmered in the light, cool and rebellious. And then I heard the school bully's panicked inner voice. Shit, he's looking at me. Chapter 2. The school bully rescued me from Evelyn's confession and pushed my pink bike forward. A small group of boys passing by teased her. Becca, when did you stop riding your motorcycle? She kicked one of them, cursing, Get lost. I walked beside her, feeling incredibly awkward, and mustered up the courage to speak. Hey, school bully, Rebecca. I froze for a moment before realizing she was telling me her name. She lowered her eyes and asked softly, Do you like me? My first instinct was to shake my head, but then I heard her eerie inner thoughts. Anyone who's used me as a shield ended up in concrete pillars, so I immediately nodded my head vigorously. Rebecca had a pair of charming, almond-shaped eyes. Right now, she smiled, stopping in her tracks, reaching out to pinch my cheek. Her thumb brushed over the mole under my eye, and she slowly said, From now on, you'll help me with my homework, watch me practice dancing, and give me rides to and from school. Treat me 10 times better than you treated Evelyn. Got it? Even though she was shorter than me, I instinctively shrank back. I was a bit confused and asked, What do you mean? She condescendingly patted my face, smiling sweetly. It means, I've accepted your pursuit. Rebecca, with her silver-dyed hair, ear piercings, and face screaming high maintenance. Suddenly, I felt like maybe going back to battle Evelyn was a better option. Chapter 3. I followed the road back home, guided by my memories. This was the Villa District. I was 17 when they brought me back from the countryside. At 17, I didn't understand many things, like why my mother was the legitimate wife. Yet I had an older half-brother, Diego, who was just a few months older than me. Everyone liked Diego, including Evelyn. Evelyn and Diego were childhood sweethearts from the beginning. Even when she first acted kindly towards me, it was only to convince me to donate a kidney to him. If it weren't for Diego's illness, the Song family would have never thought of bringing me back to them. I wasn't a person, I was medicine. But now, their intentions hadn't been revealed yet. Diego, still recovering at home, was in the garden watering the flowers. When he heard me enter, he looked up and smiled gently. You're home late. We finished dinner a while ago. It didn't matter. I wasn't allowed to sit at the table anyway. Evelyn confessed to me today. The watering can suddenly dropped from his hand, splashing water on his face. He forced a smile. Really? Congratulations. I raised an eyebrow in surprise and said, Of course. I didn't accept. How could she ever be good enough for me? In an instant, I was overwhelmed by a flood of vicious, hateful thoughts, coming from the always kind Diego. A walking kidney bag, and he's not grateful to us. How dare he say that? Evelyn only told me she'd approach Lucas. She never said she'd confess to him. This poor kid must be lying. Damn it. Lucas should take a good look at himself. So ugly. I snickered. And to think they were relying on me to keep him alive. Dream on. I ran upstairs, hearing Diego cough violently behind me. As I reached the top, the family maid, who was closer to me, pulled me aside and whispered, Madam said there's no dinner left for you. I nodded. This was a regular occurrence. As I turned away, I paused for a moment, hearing the maid's inner thoughts. She said, Poor thing. Chapter 4. Before I returned, it was just after Diego's successful recovery. Thanks to my kidney, Evelyn had promised that once he was out of the hospital, they'd get engaged. And they did, just not to me, but to Diego. She endured her disgust and revulsion, pretending to be friendly with a country bumpkin like me for so long, and finally got what she wanted. On her engagement day, she leaned into Diego's arms, and in front of all the guests, with the same gentleness as when she confessed, said to me, Lucas, why don't you take a look in the mirror? I looked down and saw my reflection on the polished floor, bloated and overweight from the medication. A far cry from the handsome and charming Diego. Perhaps we were always worlds apart. In that moment, I felt my heart shatter into pieces. Luckily, it was all just a dream. I woke up right at the moment Evelyn confessed to me, now with the added ability to hear people's thoughts. I grabbed my phone from under my pillow and opened the chat app, where there were already 99 plus messages. Only one chat was pinned at the top, Evelyn. The 17-year-old me had genuinely liked her. Evelyn's messages were still coming in, and she was probably crying from frustration. Evelyn, Lucas, I'll give you another chance. My confession still stands. Evelyn, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Congratulations. You succeeded. Evelyn, stay away from Rebecca. She's bad news. There were also several missed calls. Scrolling up, I saw messages I had sent, usually a long string of texts, but with no response from the other side. On the rare occasion Evelyn did reply, I'd be over the moon for half the day. And now, Evelyn was still flooding my phone with messages. With a swift motion, I blocked her. Then I slowly opened the class group chat. Sure enough, they were discussing the incident from this afternoon. The school flower and the school queen fighting over a guy. Such a boring headline. They even posted pictures from the scene. I clicked on one and my face immediately flushed. In the photo, the silver-haired girl was standing in front of the boy, so close it looked like she was leaning into my arms. She was staring at Evelyn with a provocative look, raising an eyebrow. The chat continued to scroll. Who's this guy anyway? Looks like a total country bumpkin. Even the heartthrob from Third High didn't manage to win over Becca. We usually can't post Becca's pictures without her permission, but she didn't say anything today. Guess it's real. I exited the chat and saw a new friend request notification. The username was BC, with a note that read, Lucas love interest. My heart skipped a beat, and I accepted. Lucas, I've accepted your friend request. We can start chatting now. After a brief pause, she sent a voice message. Her voice was teasing. Just friends. I tried to pause the voice message but fumbled, accidentally hitting the video call button. She answered, and suddenly her beautiful face appeared on the screen, so close that her eyelashes seemed like they could brush against my face. I unconsciously pulled my phone back a bit. A laugh came from the other side of the screen, and Rebecca said softly, Lucas, why is your face so red as soon as we start talking? I couldn't say a word for the longest time. Then, from somewhere behind her, I heard someone yell, Becca, we want to see your boyfriend too. It's all over the forums. Without even turning around, Rebecca chuckled, get lost. She stretched out her hand to cover the camera like a child hiding their toy, being petty. It was pretty childish. After a while, Rebecca moved her hand away, the corners of her lips curling up. You couldn't wait to video call me after being apart for a bit. What's wrong? You miss me already? Her words were light, almost seductive. Just as I was about to explain, my stomach growled loudly. I was starving. Before she could react, I quickly hit the red button to end the call. Damn, how embarrassing. Damn, she's beautiful. Chapter 5. It was already night, and the Song family had a curfew. I couldn't leave, and there was no dinner left for me. A grown man, hungry enough to gnaw at the bedpost. I could only resign myself to lying on the bed, waiting for the hunger to pass. Outside the window stood a tall camphor tree. If it weren't for this tree, blocking the view and the sunlight, I wouldn't have been given this south-facing room. The leaves rustled, and I heard the light tapping of knuckles on the glass. I looked up to see the silver-haired girl, clinging to the branches of the camphor tree with reckless abandon. One hand was tapping on the window, and the other held a full bag, with chopsticks hanging from her mouth. I quickly got up, incredulous, and opened the window. The night wind blew in like wildfire. Rebecca handed me the bag and pushed her wind-tousled hair behind her head. My dear classmate Lucas, Becca's version of takeout. She smiled, her eyes curving. How about giving me a 5-star review? Who's chasing who? Rebecca. Chapter 6. The next day, Rebecca gave me the answer. It was definitely me chasing her. I had to wait for her at school, run errands for her between classes, and even attend her volleyball games to cheer her on. I brought 2 bottles of sports drinks for Rebecca and slowly made my way to the school gym, only to find it packed, especially with boys. They were all shouting Rebecca and Evelyn, Class 1 versus Class 3 in a basketball match. And of course, both girls were in those classes. I headed toward Rebecca, but someone stepped in front of me. Evelyn stood there, and her disgusting comment from yesterday still pricked at my heart. Her expression softened slightly as she reached for the drinks in my hand. She used to do this all the time. I would run around fetching water and towels for her during volleyball or dance practice, and she would occasionally throw me a small reward. Evelyn said, "Since you brought me water, I'll forgive you for yesterday." I dodged her hand and said bluntly, "Move aside." She froze in place. I walked past her, taking a few quick steps toward Rebecca, and handed her the drinks. Rebecca squinted, inexplicably in a good mood, and lazily said, "Oh dear, I can't open the bottle." Resigned, I took the drink back, twisted the cap off, and handed it to her. Rebecca tilted her head back and took a sip, her beautiful lips curling into a smile as she snickered at something behind me. Suddenly, I heard her thoughts. Ugh, I can't stand people who overthink. I turned around, and sure enough, Evelyn was still standing there, looking a bit flustered. Her face was red with anger, and when she noticed me looking, she averted her eyes. She was upset, and I was thrilled. Chapter 7. Rebecca was in top form, unstoppable, a total sports goddess. The gym was filled with waves of cheers. Evelyn, on the other hand, seemed unusually distracted, frequently glancing toward the audience where we were sitting. She was practically crushed. Rebecca's team won without any suspense. After the game, Rebecca walked over to me, her hair tied up in a rare high ponytail, looking radiant and youthful. I handed her some water, and she leaned down, beckoning me with a finger. I obediently leaned closer, my face and neck enveloped by her scent. Rebecca draped her arm over my shoulder, playfully pouting. You watched my game, and you've got nothing to say. I blinked, while the guys nearby had been shouting, Becca is so cool. For half an hour, I looked up at her and hesitantly said, Becca is cool. In the next second, something covered my head. It was Rebecca's school jacket, which she had left by the sidelines before the game. The scent of her soap filled the air around me. I heard someone rush over to check on her. Becca, why are your ears and face so red? Are you feeling unwell? Rebecca, rare in her embarrassment, snapped, stop talking. Chapter 8. Life without Evelyn at the center was so much easier. My earliest memory of Rebecca was from the time I came out of a convenience store and stumbled upon her fighting with students from another school. I crouched against the wall, scared of getting caught in the crossfire. When it was finally quiet, I dared to look up. Rebecca was the only one left standing. She leaned against the wall, looking at me with a smirk. I was a tall guy, over 6 feet. What was I scared of? Okay, I was scared, Rebecca asked. Got a band-aid? I did. After hesitating for a moment, I walked over and handed her one. She held out her hand, showing a small scrape on the back of her pale hand, clearly wanting me to put it on for her. Rebecca looked down and asked, You're from Behi? I nodded. Which class? What's your name? Afraid that she might hunt me down later, I mumbled, I'm just the guy who's always liked Evelyn. It wasn't wrong, at a high. Maybe no one knew the name Lucas, but everyone knew Evelyn Simp. Just as I was about to put the band-aid on her, Rebecca suddenly pulled her hand back, her expression cold. She scoffed, boring. I must have said something that upset her. She walked away, her back looking thin and unsteady. But now, surprisingly, Rebecca seemed easygoing. Even when she got mad, she was quick to forgive. On the other hand, Evelyn always felt unpredictable. When she was nice, it seemed like she really liked me. When she wasn't, she was downright cruel. Fortunately, I no longer had anything to do with her, or so I thought, until Evelyn showed up at the song house after school. I had gone downstairs to get some study guides and ran into Diego, who was happily walking out of the piano room. Evelyn, it's been so long since you visited me, he said, with a trace of complaint in his voice. Evelyn stood silently for a moment before asking, How's your recovery going? Diego rambled on, I've been such a burden to our parents, but I'm okay. You don't need to worry. I'll ask the maid to cut some fruit for you. You love fruit, don't you? Yesterday. Evelyn cut him off, pressing her lips together. No need. She looked up toward the stairs and made direct eye contact with me. She stared at me and said, I'm here to see Lucas. Diego froze, as if he hadn't heard her right, and repeated, Evelyn, who are you here to see? Evelyn ignored him and stubbornly kept her eyes on me. Lucas, come down and talk. Under her gaze, I slowly walked down the stairs. I grabbed the math study guide I'd left on the table and sighed. It's not that I'm ignoring you. I was on a video call with Rebecca about math problems. If I keep her waiting, she'll get mad. Diego's face turned pale. Evelyn's face darkened. Chapter 9. That night, Diego threw a fit, demanding to return to school. Being the family's darling, and with his health improving recently, the family agreed. After his return to school was arranged, Diego's mom, for the first time, deigned to speak to me at length. Half advice, half threat. Her words boiled down to one thing. I was to be Diego's study companion. Diego's mother said, Lucas, don't forget that the reason you're able to attend this school is because of the resources I provided. She had always looked down on me as some country bumpkin and never really took me seriously. My dad only got where he was thanks to Diego's mom, a wealthy heiress, so her status was naturally higher. I nodded in silence. When the conversation ended, my dad finally spoke, calling my name, Lucas. I turned around. He said, Don't call Diego your brother at school. It's hard to explain. Same father, 2 brothers, just a few months apart. Who could explain that? Chapter 10. Diego's return to school stirred up quite the commotion. He had taken a break for half a semester due to his illness, but during his time at school, he had been a figure of influence. He and Evelyn were in the same class, and lately, they had been appearing inseparably together. Naturally, The rumors between me and Evelyn quickly died down. Diego, backed by his parents, freely ordered me around. Living under their roof, I had no choice but to comply. On a scorching summer afternoon, I had to run errands to buy ice cream for him and his gang. By the time I returned, drenched in sweat, they were laughing with their feet on my desk. That Lucas, you can tell he's a poor kid from the countryside. First clinging to Evelyn, now hanging out with Rebecca. Lucas's grades are terrible. He's nothing compared to Diego. Evelyn and Diego are childhood sweethearts. Diego, what's Lucas to you? Anyway, I've never seen a dog so obedient. They laughed again, as if they had just heard the world's funniest joke. One of them kicked my desk again. Suddenly, someone said, "Hey, Diego, Lucas has the same last name as you." Diego's smile froze for a moment but quickly returned to normal. "Lucas is the son of our driver. My dad pulled some strings to get him into this school." I interrupted their praises of Diego's kindness and put the now melted ice cream on the table. Diego flicked the contents with his fingers and said, "Lucas, it's all melted. Do me a favor and go get some more." Even though I relied on the He family's money to attend school, I couldn't swallow my anger anymore. I was ready to flip the table when a sweet voice rang out. Uncharacteristically stern, Evelyn said, "Diego, that's enough." The room fell silent. Diego couldn't keep up his smile anymore. "Evelyn, you know He swallowed the rest of his words. For some reason, when he looked at Evelyn, he didn't dare finish. I heard Diego's inner thoughts, a mix of anger and frustration. He was thinking, Evelyn and I have been through the same thing. Why is her attitude changing? I glanced at Evelyn, confused about why she was speaking up for me. Maybe they had switched tactics, one playing the good cop, the other the bad. Slowly, I said, "What's so over the top about this? You've done worse before, haven't you?" Back when I was chasing after Evelyn, she was awful. She once made me go buy coffee in a raging storm, and when I returned, drenched but with the coffee intact, she barely glanced at me and said, "Lucas, the coffee's cold." Evelyn clearly remembered it too. The room grew colder, and no one dared speak. Suddenly, I felt someone's arm hook around my neck from behind, pulling me against a soft, feminine body. The silver-haired girl, Rebecca, was smiling, but her gaze was fierce. "So this is where you've been, running errands for people." Rebecca scanned the room. Everyone she looked at paled. To this day, the school forums were still buzzing with posts about Rebecca. Her reputation as the school's queen was widespread. Making him run errands. Rebecca's voice was sharp, enunciating every word. "Are you even worthy?" Chapter 11. Rebecca casually told the group to go for a run. None of the boys dared to argue. They obediently did as she said. Even Diego wasn't spared. A bunch of them ended up drinking the melted ice cream and running laps under the scorching sun, while classmates watched from the balconies and the headmaster, bald and sweating, rushed to the track. The mastermind, Rebecca, stood beside me, her silver hair flamboyant as ever, watching them with an expressionless face. She wasn't happy. "Rebecca," I called her name. She turned to me, and the displeasure on her face instantly melted away. "Don't do this next time. It doesn't look good." It wasn't that I pitied Diego and the others, it was that it wasn't worth it for Rebecca to do this for me. Since my mom died, I'd been self-reliant, and no one had ever treated me so kindly. Even though Rebecca was said to have done worse things before, such blatant rule-breaking could damage her reputation. Rebecca rested her chin in her hand and leaned in close. So close I could count her eyelashes. I saw my reflection in her eyes. "Did it feel good, Diego?" she asked. I hesitated for a moment. "It did." Rebecca smiled like a cat who'd just caught a mouse. "Then it was worth it." Chapter 12. After Rebecca stepped in, Diego didn't dare boss me around anymore. Even at home, he was too scared to tattle. Just hearing Rebecca's name was enough to shut him up. Maybe what I said to Evelyn had also struck a nerve, because she stopped bothering me too. Occasionally, I'd see Evelyn and Diego walking together at school. One moment, Diego would be all gentlemanly with her. The next, he'd look at me with nothing but disgust. He must have had a natural talent for changing his expression, like one of those face-changing opera performers. But Evelyn didn't seem as close to him as I'd imagined. Not that it mattered to me anymore. I had one task: study hard. Well, maybe now I had another task: helping my struggling classmate Rebecca with her studies. On the day of the monthly exam results, the bulletin board was crowded. I hadn't done well in the past, but during my bedridden days, I had spent all my time reading high school textbooks, hoping to retake the college entrance exams one day. So this time, I was eager to see where I ranked. Diego and his group were crowded around the top of the board. "Diego, you're ranked 29th in the year. That's amazing." Of course, it was amazing. The Song family had hired top tutors for him. First place, as expected, goes to Evelyn. They turned around and saw me searching from the bottom of the list, snickering. I heard Diego's smooth, mocking voice. "Some people at least know their place, looking for their name where it belongs." Suddenly, someone tugged on his sleeve and cursed softly. Diego. His rank is ahead of yours. I was just a few spots above Diego. He stared at the board, stunned, unable to believe it. Someone read my ranking out loud. Lucas, 20th. I couldn't believe it was that high. I suppressed my excitement and finally found Rebecca's name. She had jumped to the middle of the pack. Lucas's tutoring sessions were working. I turned around and saw Rebecca walking down the corridor with a group of girls. Afraid she wouldn't see me, I waved and happily called her name, Rebecca. She looked up and met my gaze. You ranked 300th. I puffed out my chest, proud. You got 300th place, Rebecca. Rebecca's steps faltered, and the girls around her started teasing her, nudging her with their elbows. Becca, the guy you like is so cute. Rebecca looked at me, and under everyone's watchful eyes, her face turned bright red in an instant. I heard Rebecca's inner voice, a little annoyed. She was thinking, damn it, he's way too good at flirting. Chapter 13. Many people liked Rebecca, but most of them admired her from afar due to her bad reputation. However, today, one of the few who openly liked her came to find me. It was David, the heartthrob from the neighboring Third High, who had acted in a few well-known youth dramas. I had heard that Rebecca had once fought for him, but for some reason, they never got together. Early in the morning, David was waiting for me at the school gate. Rebecca and I usually went to school together now, but today she had gone to the convenience store, and I was waiting for her at the gate. I never expected David to show up first. David was good-looking, in that bad boy kind of way. You must be Lucas, he said. I nodded. David got straight to the point. You can't win against me, so just stay away from Rebecca. Becca's cold on the outside but kind on the inside, and sometimes she just pities people, which can give the wrong impression. Besides, it was all over the forums last night. If I were you, I'd be too ashamed to show my face at school. Becca's only interested in you for the moment. If you keep pushing, you'll only embarrass yourself. Forums? What forums? Before I could respond, David's eyes lit up as he looked past me, calling out, Becca. Before I could react, a cup of soy milk and a bun were shoved into my hands, and the silver-haired girl appeared at my side, biting on a carton of milk, stuffing a handful of candy into my pocket, and zipping up my half-open backpack. Rebecca didn't even look at David and mumbled through the milk carton. What are you talking about? Her actions were so smooth, as if she had done them countless times before. David stared at Rebecca's hand as she zipped up my bag, his face turning pale. Becca, you don't let anyone get that close to you. How can you do these things for him? Rebecca rolled her eyes in exasperation and spat out 2 words. Who are you? Chapter 14. It turns out being a celebrity doesn't help with mental resilience. Rebecca's few words left David devastated. As Rebecca and I walked toward the school, she suddenly spoke, her tone proud. I don't know him. I never fought for him either. Those were just rumors. The only person I've ever stood up for is you. I was taken aback, realizing that Rebecca was explaining herself to me. I looked up at Rebecca, her light-colored hair making her skin appear even paler. She lazily added, I'm not like some people who like someone else before liking me. Luckily, they realized their mistake in time. I wasn't sure who she was throwing shade at, but in the end, she shot me a glance and teased, right, Lucas. Chapter 15. After the morning's drama, I couldn't shake a sense of unease. As soon as I walked into school, I felt something was off. It was especially noticeable during the breaks. People's stares were odd, and I could hear the thoughts around me. Lucas is actually an illegitimate child. No wonder he's two-timing. It's in his blood. If I were him, I wouldn't dare show my face in front of Diego, let alone attend the same school. Oh my God, so disgusting. I realized what had happened and quickly checked my phone in the bathroom. Sure enough, there was a trending post on the forum, exposing Lucas, the illegitimate child of a high, who's two-timing. The post was anonymous, written by someone claiming to be a regular classmate who couldn't stand Lucas anymore. It presented a twisted, dramatic version of my life, turning everything upside down. It claimed Diego's parents were the true, loving couple, while my mother had schemed to marry into the Song family by having me. It painted Diego as the innocent victim, sick because of my mother's actions, while I shamelessly pursued both Evelyn and Rebecca at the same time. No need to look at the comments, they were all insults. I was so angry my head felt foggy. None of it was true. In reality, it was Diego's mother who had set her sights on my dad when he was newly married. She became the other woman, and eventually, they ran off together. My dad never looked back, leaving us behind. My mother, even until her death, still hoped he would change his mind. I left the bathroom and washed my face at the sink. Someone handed me a tissue. It was Evelyn. She spoke softly. I've already asked someone to handle the forum post. Don't worry. I looked at her reflection in the mirror, her white shirt and gentle expression. You knew about this all along. I was referring to the content in the post. Evelyn closed her eyes briefly, a self-loathing look on her face, and nodded. I'll make sure this is suppressed. No one will talk about your background anymore. Don't be mad at me, Lucas. Once this blows over, Let's just pretend it never happened. Okay. She didn't even bother asking me if it was true. She had already assumed it was a fact. She opened her eyes again, looking at me softly. You see, I've been helping you from the moment we first met. Come back to me, Lucas. I wiped my face, threw the tissue in the trash, and turned to her calmly. Evelyn, I'm not an illegitimate child. Chapter 16. From the moment we first met, Evelyn had always helped me. When I first arrived here, I couldn't even find the Song family's house and got lost in the Villa district, chased all over by some neighbor's dog. My mom had died of rabies, so I had always been terrified of dogs. That day, it had started raining. I ran and dropped all my ragged belongings along the way. The dog knocked me down, but then I heard a whistle, and the dog immediately jumped off me, happily running away. As I shakily gathered my things in the rain, tears streaming down my face, an umbrella appeared above me. The hand holding the umbrella was slender, and the girl standing there in a white dress was cold and elegant. For a moment, I felt ashamed of myself. Did you chase the dog away? Did you save me? What's your name? She said. I'm Evelyn. After that, I lived under the Song family's roof, ignored at school, but Evelyn always helped me. I stuck by her side. Maybe even I couldn't tell if what I felt for her was love. After all, from the start, she had her own motives. Evelyn was complicated. Sometimes I thought she liked me. She even wrote her name in my textbooks. But the next second, she'd get mad and scratch it out. I always knew she was disgusted by something about me, but I never knew what. Now I understood. She had always believed I was an illegitimate child, that the blood in my veins was dirty. Loving Evelyn was worse than loving a dog. Chapter 17. I walked straight to Class 1's door and, as expected, found a crowd gathered around Diego. He looked forlorn and pitiful, while everyone around him was busy comforting him. When they saw me standing at the door, they glared at me. Thanks to Rebecca's intervention last time, no one dared to insult me openly, afraid of getting on the wrong side of the school's queen. Diego had always put on a good front with me, but lately, something had changed. First, he'd made a fuss about returning to school. Then there was the ice cream incident. Our pretense of civility was completely shattered. He looked up at me, his eyes red, his knuckles white from clenching his fists. Lucas, can't you leave my family alone? I heard his inner thoughts again, half angry, half hurt. Diego was thinking, Evelyn just went to see him. He used to hate illegitimate children as much as I did. How did things end up like this? Leaning against the wall, I chuckled. Of course not. Diego's expression froze. I walked over, placing my hand on his desk, looking down at him. That post is a pack of lies. I'm not an illegitimate child. The other child born from an affair is someone else. Diego had been kept in the dark by his parents and genuinely believed his mother was the rightful wife. That's why he harbored so much hostility toward me. Now, hearing this, he instinctively snapped back. What proof do you have? I shook my head and straightened up, looking at him with a hint of contempt. I don't need proof. Whoever makes accusations has to provide the evidence. The innocent don't have to prove their innocence. I added, I'll call the police. Justice will give me the answer. Did the person who posted that rumor think anonymity would protect them from responsibility? Diego's face turned pale. Before I could call the police, justice arrived on its own. Someone muttered. The forum's anonymous feature just went offline. The person next to me was hiding their phone behind a book, reading the post. The name of the poster was now clear, Class 1's Diego. The looks people gave Diego were strange. After comforting him for so long, they realized he had written the post himself. What a two-faced act. Diego, with his thin skin, blushed furiously and fainted from the stress. Chapter 18. In the VIP ward, Diego had just come out of dialysis, looking pale, while the nurse was bustling around and his mother fed him pre-cut fruit. I was getting scolded by Song's father. Lucas, I'm really disappointed in you. Is this how you repay us? By making your brother so angry that he ends up in the hospital? He said nothing about what Diego had done. I lowered my eyes in annoyance, staring at the spotless floor, and thought about the time I was left alone in the hospital. After giving Diego a kidney, their attitude toward me had turned cold. When I first came here, I wanted to show my long-lost biological father that I could be an excellent son. But things didn't go as planned. Fortunately, I had stopped caring a long time ago. I've heard the whole situation. I also heard you want to call the police. That's ridiculous. You shouldn't go back to school. After all, those are Diego's classmates, and this will affect him badly. I'll arrange for you to transfer. Realizing his tone was too harsh, Song's father softened his voice. We're family, Lucas. Try to understand and show some consideration. All right. No. I shook my head. Song's father was stunned. This was the first time I had ever refused him. What did you just say? He asked harshly. My throat felt dry. The atmosphere in the room turned tense. The door opened suddenly, and a group of people crowded in, with a silver-haired girl standing at the entrance. She spread her hands. Lucas, come here. I quickly walked toward her, lowering my voice. Why are you here? Rebecca placed her hand on my back. I didn't want them giving you a hard time. I'm here to back you up. Song's father clearly recognized Rebecca, and a hint of flattery appeared on his face. I had no doubt that he was about to ask me to help him connect with her. I let out a breath, feeling oddly emboldened, and repeated, I said, no, I will report it to the police. I'm not donating another kidney, and whether Diego lives or dies has nothing to do with me. You're lucky I haven't punched any of you yet. I turned to look at Diego, who was clutching his blanket in panic. Diego's hatred toward me stemmed from being a half-sibling, from Evelyn, and from his jealousy over my health. I shattered the dream he had been living in for years. Diego, your mom is a full-blown mistress. Your dad, he had an affair while married. Diego, you're the illegitimate child from that post you wrote. Chapter 19. After saying my piece, I left the ward, leaving chaos behind. I sat in the hospital corridor when someone suddenly squatted in front of me. Rebecca and her crew had lingered by the ward's door for a while longer. I didn't need to ask to know they were covering for me. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have gotten away so easily today. I had always been spineless, and now I even needed a girl to clean up after me. I clenched my hands and looked into Rebecca's eyes. Thank you, Rebecca. Sunlight filtered through, making her features look even clearer. After hesitating for a moment, I asked, why are you so good to me? Rebecca rested her chin in her hand and smiled. Are you flirting or asking me seriously? My face flushed red instantly. I wasn't flirting. I wasn't complimenting you. I was genuinely asking. Rebecca. Rebecca frowned slightly, as if she were genuinely considering her answer. Do I need a reason? Some people just shine so brightly that when you see them, you want to give them the best of everything. The first time I saw you, you were being chased all over by Sue family's dog. It was pretty special. I was the one who whistled to call the dog away. I was going to check on you, but then I saw Evelyn. She annoyed me, so I left. If I had known it was you, I wouldn't have turned around. If I had known it was Lucas, I wouldn't have let anyone else get ahead of me. That one turn, and all Lucas could see was Evelyn, never noticing me again. I watched him run errands for Evelyn, saw him get hurt but still like her, watched them look like a couple, and I had no choice but to step aside. My expression shifted slightly, realizing Rebecca had helped me before Evelyn even got involved. I waited for her to continue, but she didn't. Instead, she looked at me with clear, playful eyes, and then, why so eager to know my feelings? Lucas. Rebecca stood up, pretending to speak casually. That Sioux family dog is usually very well behaved and never runs off. It listens to its owner. Chapter 20. Rebecca took me to the police station to file a report, and the forum post remained up. Apparently, Diego had tried to delete it several times, but it couldn't be removed. Just like when the forum's anonymous feature bugged out and got disabled that day, the comments had already turned against him. Rebecca and I had a good laugh over the content of the post. She scoffed at the part about me two-timing, coldly saying, Evelyn, a boat worth stepping on, please. The case was resolved quickly. Not only did Diego have to issue a public apology, but I also received financial compensation. It wasn't much, but it was enough to free me from the Song family's control, covering my tuition and living expenses. Diego admitted to making up the rumors, which was also an indirect admission that he was the real illegitimate child. After that, his condition worsened. Adding insult to injury, the Song family's business suddenly took a nosedive, but none of that mattered to me. I was enjoying my compensation from the Song family, sipping on a carton of yogurt while typing on my phone. Lucas, I knew justice would prevail. Rebecca, and what about me? I thought for a moment, smiled, and typed. Becca will always lead me to justice. There was no reply for a long time. I set my phone aside and focused on my homework. When I remembered to check again, a new message had been sitting there for a while. Rebecca had sent a voice message. Her voice was sweet as it flowed through the speaker. Lucas, what should I do? It feels like you're about to catch up to me. Chapter 21. Under the camphor tree, the girl in the white dress, Evelyn, had been standing for a long time. The dappled sunlight falling on her was soft. As I walked past, she called my name, stopping me in my tracks. I turned around, not understanding why. Evelyn's expression was complicated, as if she felt a sense of relief, but also something else. Sorry, she murmured, biting her lip. I never thought I would hear Evelyn say those two words. She didn't look as hard to approach as Rebecca, but deep down, she was prouder than anyone, the kind of person who'd rather die than lower her head. Patiently, I asked, is it because you misunderstood that I was an illegitimate child? Evelyn stared at me for several seconds, her eyes welling up with tears. For everything that happened before, Diego had been telling me for years that he had a half-brother. I took his word for it, seeing that I showed no reaction. Evelyn lowered her eyes, looking fragile like glass. Have you met my little brother? Before I came back in time. Yes, I had. He was an adorable chubby kid who liked chasing after Evelyn, but Evelyn treated him indifferently, even cruelly. After a pause, Evelyn spoke, reopening an old wound. He's the child of the woman my father kept outside our home. It dawned on me that Evelyn's conflicting attitude toward me was her way of projecting her own pain. She had even helped the Song family deceive me because, in her eyes, it was something I owed them. Evelyn. I suddenly called her name. Giving her a gentle smile, she looked up, holding her breath. It had been a long time since she'd seen me smile at her. I could hear the bitterness in her heart, but I really, truly, like Lucas. I like you, I said. Watching as Evelyn's eyes lit up, I let out a sneer. Did you really believe that? Disgusting. Evelyn needed to understand that some things can't be fixed with a simple apology. I threw those same words back at her. Evelyn staggered slightly, staring at me in silence and pain. Perhaps, in that moment, she finally realized what she had lost. Lucas. A lazy voice called from behind me, tinged with irritation. I turned around quickly to see Rebecca standing not far behind us, holding a strawberry-flavored ice cream. Her beautiful face was cold, and I suddenly felt like I had been caught cheating. Forgetting Evelyn, I quickly walked toward Rebecca. Just 2 steps away from her, she suddenly threw herself into my arms. I caught her, steadying her, but I heard her let out a small cry of pain. I immediately looked down. Did you hurt yourself? Where does it hurt? Rebecca took my hand, slowly guiding it to her chest, just above her heart. Under my palm, I felt her soft skin and the intense, rapid beating of her heart. I looked up to see that there wasn't a trace of pain on her face. Instead, she tilted her head, her expression playful and mischievous. It hurts right here. I sighed helplessly. Rebecca pouted. Dear Lucas, I can understand that there are other girls around you. After all, we're not officially together, but as your pursuer, I'm feeling a little insecure. So, I've decided to change the word pursuer to something else. Can you guess what word? What word? Rebecca stomped her foot and gritted her teeth. Girlfriend. I couldn't hear any more thoughts, just the sound of 2 hearts beating loudly. Neither of us said a word as the sunlight poured down. In any case, there was still a long road ahead and a lot of life left to live. After all, this was a new beginning. In reality, the school queen, Rebecca, wasn't that hard to catch after all.